walked the other day. Did you see the sky, the sunset?
Oh my gosh, it's unreal.
Wasn't that insane?
Absolutely incredible.
Right. Once again, so there's the moment, God, the moment, reality, nature, saying, God, look at this.
Yeah.
And moments like that are like oxygen.
There's something to it.
Yes, it's like an infusion of life. And I'll carry that image with me for days and days and days.
When life throws a challenge at you, one thing is certain. To find a resolution for every issue, every problem, for everybody, there's more than one way.
So a couple weeks ago, Cindy and I went over to Latvia. I never thought I would ever say that. But we did, because my son plays basketball in this league over there that's part of the European Cup League.
Okay.
And we went over and had a great time. It's a long way away. And so, as you can imagine, 2 of the 10 days that we were gone were spent traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way back, we came into Atlanta from Munich.
Okay.
So it was like a 10-hour flight.
Gotcha.
And man, we landed and we were exhausted, and Atlanta was just in chaos because of the weather.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just this chaotic. And something that I forgot to mention was, while we were over in Latvia, I'm going to come back to Atlanta. While we were over in Latvia, my phone died.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that was my first response. Oh, no. Because I didn't realize how attached I was to my phone until it died. And then I was. Mm-hmm. And so we went over to, there was a Apple-ish kind of store there, and went over and tried to get it fixed, and couldn't get it fixed. And so I spent 8 days essentially there in Latvia without a phone.
Wow.
And
what was that like?
Yeah. What would you imagine that would be like?
I think it'd be interesting. I mean, you're in a foreign place already, and then you have something that can bring some comfort, or is a tool that you can use to help navigate around, or other thing, stay connected with people at home. I mean, it would seem like it'd be very disorienting.
Yeah, so the first few days were kind of like that. But Cindy had her phone, so
Gotcha.
We could use her phone to get us around.
Mm-hmm.
And each day what I found was I liked it more and more, not having the phone.
Mm.
And the reason is because I could really and truly be more present and less distracted.
Sure.
Wherever I happened to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I never really realized how much I used my phone to kind of take me out of where I am. Maybe it's because I was bored, or because I just, whatever. And I just hadn't really thought about that. Hadn't really dawned on me. So nothing bad about the phone. The phone is a great tool. But what I realized is without it, I was more available.
Okay.
And I was more present, as I said, and also able to pay attention. And presence and paying attention are 2 huge things within the spiritual world.
Absolutely.
I mean, just giant. You over and over again, all the traditions are going to say, pay attention, be where you are when you're there. Pay attention, and like I said, the phone is a really great way to take me, or let's put it on me, away from where I am.
Oh, yeah.
So for those 8 days, and keeping in mind that Cindy had hers, so we were able to use it I was able to use it for its best stuff.
Yeah.
I was able to just be there, and I just noticed a lot more, and I recognized when I would start to get distracted or bored, and I was able to pull myself back. If I had my phone, I just would have turned to the phone. That's right.
Absolutely.
I would have just looked to that.
Yeah.
All right. So all that happened, and then we came back to Atlanta, and Atlanta was chaos.
Yeah.
And part of the chaos was we had to stand in this line to recheck our bags that we picked up after the international flight.
Sure.
And there was only one line for all the planes that had come from overseas.
Oh my goodness.
Because 90% or so of the workforce in Atlanta didn't come to work because of the weather.
Okay.
So instead of having like 10 lanes open, there was just one. So we stood in line, and they had no option but to stand in line, and we stood in line for 4 hours.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So this whole presence, pay attention thing was gonna get tested right
Sure.
here, right? And once again, what I recognized without a phone was how much I use my phone in situations like that.
Sure.
Right? How many times I went to my back pocket to see, wait a minute, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. I'm anxious. All those things. And in order to be present, part of the deal is going through all those things. Because sometimes that's what's going on when you're present. So, I'm standing in line there and start to get frustrated. Reach for my back pocket. The phone's not there. So now I got to sit there and stand there in that frustration for a little bit. And then think, well, okay, am I going to just stand here for however long we're going to be in this line and be frustrated the whole time?
Because I would imagine the energy around you was of frustrated people as well.
That was the interesting thing. I felt, for me, from my perspective, it was up and down, kind of like it was up and down with me. You'd see people start to get frustrated, especially people with little kids.
Sure, yeah.
Right? And the kids are starting to squirm. So you see them start to get frustrated, and then they deal with their kids, and then they calm down. And that's what I kind of felt in myself. I would get frustrated, and then I'd just look around and think, wait a minute, these people are in the same position I'm in, and do I really want to just be frustrated with everybody and everything? And what I found was, by being present and going through that, having frustration come, having tiredness come, having anger come, and all those things that can be very, very much a part of being present in the moment. By going through all that, rather than turning to my phone or trying to distract myself in some other way, I came to the other side, and the other side was a place of really deep empathy and compassion for all the people who were a part of this thing.
Everybody going through that.
Everybody going through the same thing. And it was very connecting. And what I saw was 95% of the people who were in that were really cool. We're all in the same boat. We're all going through a very similar thing.
And when you're in a position where there's literally nothing you could do, I mean, you just had to wait.
It seemed like most people just came to that conclusion.
Because I think about when I've been waiting and I pull out my phone, a lot of that is I want to compress the time. I want to shorten the wait, or whether that's distraction or whatever. And when I do that and I'm focused on the screen, you mentioned this openness of compassion of the other people around you. When I'm looking at my screen, I'm trying to focus in on that to take myself out of the environment, so I'm not thinking about the people around me at all. I easily could bump into somebody because I'm looking at my screen being focused, so it's interesting.
I have a similar thing. It's in a sense, it's kind of me. It would be me saying, I don't want to be in this moment.
Right.
I don't like this for whatever reason it is. So I'm gonna use my phone in this instance to create something else.
Yeah.
And while that doesn't make me a bad person, so this isn't a matter of good, bad.
Right.
It's a matter of, okay, so I stop paying attention. I stop noticing. And then I'm out of the moment, and once again, back to the spiritual thing, everything says the moment in a way is really all you've got.
Say more about that.
Well, the past is past.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can only do what, make amends where you need to make amends for the past, or be happy from whatever happened from the past, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's past anyway. Right. The future's not here yet.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what, there's potentials that could happen within the context of the future, but it's not here yet.
Mm-hmm.
All you really got is the moment you're in. And the moment you're in can influence then what the future might be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's why one of the reasons why I just think that spiritual traditions are always like, let the past go and don't rush into the future or what you think the future might be. Be where you are when you're there.
And I think there has to be a sense of freedom with that, with the idea, like, thinking about the past, it's almost like carrying bags, or carrying weight.
Yes.
Or if I'm anxious or worried about what might happen in the future, somebody had described anxiety as experiencing failure twice, with the idea that you experience before it happens, and then if it happens, you experience it again. So you're already, if you're assuming the worst or worried, you're carrying that too. Where if you're in the moment and you're really in that moment, some of that stuff has been set down.
Yes, that's my experience. I mean, if you can think about times when you've really been in the moment, does that speak true to you? Does that ring true to you?
Yeah, I think so. And I think when you described it the way you did, it sounds so logical.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that logical or accessible all the time.
It doesn't. And as we're sitting here talking about it, I'm being very calm.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in this nice room. But while it was happening, I was not calm at times.
Yeah.
And I was extremely frustrated at times. I mean, 4 hours in a line is a long time.
That's a long time.
Right? And we didn't even get to take a ride, right? So it was just to get our bags checked.
Wow.
Right? So that's the longest I've ever spent in a line in my entire life that I can ever remember.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to sugarcoat it. It was at times excruciatingly boring.
Right.
And at times, like I said, what I was trying to hit on with the flights, we'd been on a plane for 12, 14 hours.
Already leading up to that, before you even got there.
Yeah, we woke up at,
tired.
3 o'clock in the morning to get to the airport by 5 o'clock in the morning to catch a plane, right?
Yeah.
So I was extremely tired and frustrated at times. And I think sometimes when people say things like pay attention or be in the moment, I think I've thought, well, then that means I'll be good. I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Everything will go
peaceful,
well. Well, that's just not the way it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think what people are saying by being in the moment is go through your frustration. Work through it. Work through your anger.
Mm-hmm.
Work through whatever it is that pops up isn't necessarily bad unless you can't work through it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, along with frustration and anger, there was a great deal of sympathy and empathy and kindness. I saw online this one older couple, and I guess we'd probably all been standing there. They were a little ahead of us. How the line goes back and forth.
Yeah, kind of snakes.
And so you kind of see each other, but
groups,
so they were like going one way when we were going the other way.
Uh-huh.
So they were ahead of us, and I could just see their back. And my guess is we'd been standing there for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And this old guy was really starting to have a hard time.
Mm.
And so he had one of those, you pull the thing up to pull your suitcase.
Your back, yeah.
The handle, the thing, the thing, the handle. So you pull the handle up, and he was just he pulled the handle up and he was trying to sit on his suitcase like that. And it really wouldn't hold him. So the wheels would go. So this one guy who was standing behind him just put his leg there. Put his leg so his bag wouldn't roll.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when he couldn't get up and his wife wasn't strong enough to pick him up, he went and helped him pick him up. so that he could move forward. And then when that was too much, a guy behind him went and got some people, and there were only about 4 people working, right? So, and there were no wheelchairs to be found, but he went and found somebody to find a wheelchair for this guy to have.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, so it's like if I'd been on my phone,
you may not have seen
I might have seen a little of it, but I sure as heck wouldn't have seen the whole scene and realized, you know, people can be really kind.
Yeah. And I bet while he was helping that person, he wasn't thinking as much about the weight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was kind of a positive distraction for him, but based in that compassion you were talking about, being aware of the people around him.
Right. Being aware of that, being in that moment, because if he had been on his phone, he might have just, you know, maybe he would have put it down, maybe not. You know. Once again, not that the phone's bad. It's just one more thing that gets in the way of, for me anyway, of being truly present, of being truly where I am, for good and ill. And, you know, in that moment, I didn't want to be there oftentimes because it was so long and boring. Yeah. And on some level chaotic. But once again, it taught me such a lesson, and it really brought home in my heart the truth of what these spiritual traditions talk about, paying attention and being present. I've read for years and years and years.
And that seems to be a common thread through a lot of different belief systems historically.
I don't know any religious spiritual tradition that goes, don't be present. Don't be in the moment. Go. Live in the past. Live in the future. There's not one. You know, I don't think there's one. I mean, please call in if you know of one, because I've never heard of one. Yeah. Because it's just a constant. And we're just in a day and time where it's just so very easy. Yeah. And the phones and things like that add to the easiness of just being able to go away. Yeah. So I wouldn't want anybody to have to stand in line for 4 hours. Yeah. But at the same time, what helps you be present? No, I'm asking you. What helps you be present?
That's a good question. I definitely relate to being somebody that really likes technology. I relate to relying on my phone a lot, you know, for a way to soothe whatever I'm feeling in the moment. You know, it's good for a lot of those emotions, you know. I was doing a very repetitive task yesterday that I didn't want to do, and it was the same thing over and over and over. I was sealing envelopes, and there were a lot of them to seal, and I was looking at the stack and how big it was, and I was just like, oh, this is going to take me forever to do this, you know, and the glue wouldn't stick, and I cut myself and bled over 5 of the envelopes, and I had to go back and handwrite their addresses so that I didn't send them out with my blood dripped on them, you know. Shit. And everything was just kind of stacking up, you know, and I was just like, it just is what it is, you know. I mean, it's not hard, you know. My mind was racing to all the other things I could have been doing other than that, you know. I was like, I just need to do this, you know, and I finished it, and it was fine, you know. But that's kind of a silly example, but I think we get there more often than we realize, maybe.
Yes.
I mean, well, there's something every day that you're just kind of like, really? Okay.
Yeah, and it's not a silly example. It's a great example, because there was a guy back in the day, and I can't remember exactly when he lived, but his name was Brother Lawrence. And he was the person in the monastery who took care of the kitchen. Okay. And he wrote a book essentially practicing the presence of God. And where he found the presence of God was washing dishes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah. Same thing as doing your envelopes. It's same thing with what we're trying to say. God, reality, life is in the moment with whatever the moment is bringing. And so he was like, you know, if I can't find the presence of God while I'm doing this, then I won't find it anywhere. So your example is in that line.
Gotcha.
It's in the line of the Christian spiritual tradition that says the presence of God is in the moment. So stay open to the moment. Right? Whatever it is that you happen to be doing. Mm-hmm. I think that's where the pay attention part becomes just such a big thing. Right? So that here's this guy who could have just been like, oh my God, one more dish. Mm-hmm. Right? And he experienced it totally differently. And what I'm saying is my 4-hour stay in line helps me to really get what he was writing about back in with the dishes. So it's not just an intellectual thing like, oh yeah, everybody writes about this. Yeah. It's no, I've experienced this. This has been true for me. When I can pay attention, when I can be in the moment, even if I don't think I like the moment. Mm-hmm. So much is going on. So I've tried to take that whole thing that happened in the airport and bring it into my daily life. Now I have a phone now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my God, I'm not crazy. So I have a phone now. And just today I went to get some lunch, and it was one of those stand in line and tell them what you want. And they, and there were 5 people in front of me. I thought, oh, this should go quick. But the person who was ordering at the moment that I walked up was ordering for other people. Okay. And I don't think she'd ever ordered for another person ever in her life. Right? Because she was asking so many questions and other people who I don't even think she knew them. Opinion about what she should get. Like, I think she was getting something for her dad. Okay. Would Dad like this?
What would he
saying
like?
Stuff like, yeah. And so I was just like, oh my God, this is going to take forever, right? Yeah. So back to that whole thing. And I caught myself. I'm starting to get annoyed. Don't do it. And guess what I did? I went for my phone.
Make sure you're fine. Yeah.
That's right. But I caught myself. And I said, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, so nice. I didn't go to the phone, and I stood there, and she ordered, and then the next person came up, and he was ordering for other people, but he had a phone with what the person wanted on it. Yes. Yeah. And so he was my hero, and he was in and out of there, and then the next person, not quite so. So I went for my phone again. But I caught myself. And nothing like as powerful as it happened in the 4-hour thing happened.
Right.
It was just more, no, don't run away from this moment. Stay here. And yeah, it's kind of like you and the stamps, just you and the envelopes. Yeah. Just this is what's going on in my life right now. Mm-hmm. Doesn't do any good to try to wish it away. Yeah. Right? Because for me, once again, what I found, if I do that in that situation, then how many other situations am I doing that in?
Yeah.
And then pretty soon, I'm not really living my life. I'm living a very distracted life. Mm-hmm. And I'm not living, like right now, you could just be like, God, all right already. I'm going to quit talking about that. And your mind could just start going wherever it goes.
Put it on double speed.
Right. Put it on double speed.
Move this along.
Listen to something else while you're listening. Watch something else while you're listening to. You could do all that.
Yeah.
And that could become a normal way of living. Mm-hmm. And once again, from the spiritual perspective, what that does is pulls you further and further away from the moment that you're in. Now, that does not make anybody bad. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I am saying we miss out on probably the heart of our life.
Well, and I think I love the example you shared because it's just real. I mean, all of us have experienced that waiting and frustration, and it's not. I don't know. I guess it makes me wonder about where are those moments when are there moments where that comes up where it's not in frustration? are there moments of presence that I stumble into or I'm aware of when it's not from being distracted or
Well, for me, I could definitely say, yeah, there are, and it's usually nature moments, or being with people who I really love.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Being with people or doing something. We talked about that before, where you kind of lose track of time and you're just kind of in it.
Just in it with them.
You're not really thinking about before or after. You're just there.
Yeah, just in it. I mean, it was like the other day. Did you see the sky, the sunset?
Oh my gosh, it's unreal.
Wasn't that insane?
Absolutely incredible.
Right. Once again, so there's the moment saying to me, God, the moment, reality, nature, saying, God, look at this.
Yeah.
And moments like that are like oxygen. They're like...
there's something to it.
Yes, it's like an infusion of life. And I'll carry that image with me for days and days and days. To say, yeah, we live in this beauty, and this beauty is all around us. You sent me a video about that, right?
Yeah.
Say something.
Yeah,
about
there
that
was a video I saw earlier today that was from Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And he was talking about listening to the quiet.
Yeah.
And he was kind of talking about a vision for the year, was just really talking about observing and just listening. And he was using a lot of examples around nature and other things like that to kind of just experience the wonder that's happening all the time.
Yeah.
That we just kind of walk past, or we're so used to it that we're just kind of like,
Yes. See, but once again, so he's getting into that whole spiritual thing about being in the moment. So when you're listening to the quiet, you're in that moment. And if you're really in that moment, maybe you hear some kind of insect chewing on a leaf. I got that from there, or you see that kind of a sky, or you feel the sting of the cold, or the beauty of just a nice breeze, and on it goes. It's all about saying, pay attention, look what you're in.
Yeah.
And so it was so cool that Han Solo, for God's sakes, was saying, think about this year. Pay attention to the quiet. Listen to the quiet. That's, by any other name, that's live in the moment.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on in the moment.
On top of the things that we bring to it, or that we think need to get done, or that ours get, just the moment itself has.
Just the moment itself.
Yeah.
Just the moment. It's just paying attention to that. Yeah. So being there and seeing that sky, I was willing to stand outside in that frigid air just to be able to see that sky.
Yeah.
And and if I'd been, once again, nothing wrong with the phone, but if I'd been on my phone, it might have been a quick glance and back to the phone, or it might have been I didn't even notice it.
Right.
Being in the moment, paying attention. Two huge tools to living a whole life.
So I think, in the moment you're talking about waiting in line for your food and the people ordering in front of you, and being, feeling that impulse to reach back and grab your phone, and then kind of catching yourself. I wonder, how readily would you have done that had you not had that experience in the airport, with the idea that almost kind of primed you for a future interaction, or in a way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think I part of the deal is I don't think I would have noticed.
Yeah.
I think I just would have done it. And once again, so doesn't make me bad. It just means I'm not really paying attention to how often I do that. And Latvia, not having the phone there, and then standing in line, all that stuff was almost like a practice to get to standing in line today.
Yeah. And that might be practice for
the
next time.
For the next time.
Yeah.
Because not having the phone for 8 days really did help me not necessarily need it.
Yeah.
And I'm doing air quotes for those of you who can't see. And
it was long enough away
yes,
that you could kind of break it.
I wasn't I'd gotten to the point of where I really didn't want it.
Yeah.
Until I got to a 4-hour wait, and then it was like, well, geez, anything to help me not be this bored.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, I don't think there's any doubt that each bit of practice leads to being able to be more present as life goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the big things about meditation. I hesitated to bring that up before because, we've talked about meditation before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not like, hey, everybody should run out and meditate, but that is one of the great benefits, is that you're in a sense forcing yourself to learn how to be present.
Yeah.
So it helps you down the line, and you never know exactly what's going to happen in the moment.
Yeah. No, that's so true. Makes me think of a story that someone shared with us recently about a dinner that they had with their mom, and they were there, and they were on their phone kind of looking at stuff and just checking messages, and their mom asked them to put the phone away so that they could have a conversation, and they said they didn't even realize that they were really on it that much,
Mm-hmm.
And that ended up being the last conversation that this person had with their mom.
Oh my God.
And just looking back and thinking about that conversation and how it went, and just not knowing would that have been the same, having not been that connected. And, the mom asked them to put the phone away, but just, we really are unaware of the power of the moment.
Yeah.
And just what that holds, what it could hold.
And how much the person probably just appreciates that they were able to put it down.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And be there.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, maybe not to that extent, but that's true for everything. Maybe not that intensely, but it is true for all of life. You get the moment you're in. That's what you get. Thank you for listening to this episode of the More Than One Way podcast, brought to you by the Center for Spiritual Practice in Knoxville, Tennessee. We really appreciate your time and would love to hear your feedback. You can reach us by emailing hello@morethanonewaypod.com, or you can connect with us on social media using the handle @morethanonewaypod. If you found this episode helpful, we hope that you'll share it with your friends, with your family, with people you work with all the people who you know. Thank you, and take care.